She's a flea male. What your dad should have told you about women like this.
Ma'am, did you just cancel the ride?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Cancel the ride. I'm getting married.
Yeah, hold on.
I feel like I shouldn't.
No, I'm
pay
sorry.
for
I'm
anything.
I'm not giving free rides. You're gonna have to get out.
I'm a bride.
Yeah.
It's my wedding day.
I don't care. I'm trying to make money.
Why would I pay for anything on my wedding day? Are you serious?
That's none of my business.
I'm
trying to give you a ride here, and we're doing it for money. That's
What kind of man are you? You must have never been married. You probably ain't even got.
I'm a hard-working man that's providing for his family. I'm not giving you a free ride just because it's your wedding day. Congratulations and all, but like,
what fucking bride will pay for anything on her wedding day?
well, I don't know, but you definitely need to find some way,
can you get me,
to.
Please get me to the church right now, Father.
Well, I can't now because you need to get out and just start a new order.
Get out. Where am I gonna go?
Here?
Here?
Yeah, get out.
This is an abandoned place.
Go
This
on,
is not
go
the
on.
church.
Well, you should have waited until we got to the church to get out.
Dude, drive.
No, I'm not driving.
I have my husband to pay for it when we get there.
No, that's not how it works.
Fucking
You already canceled the ride. So entitled.
If you don't buy me anything, I don't know that you like me.
I believe in 50-50. Blocked.
I can't date a man that works a 9 to 5 because at 9 a.m. I'm going to look at flights and be like, hey, want to go to Jamaica? And he's going to be like, hey, got to go to work.
At this point, y'all should just date each other because it's always something wrong that a man is doing.
And this is just your reminder that if that man don't want you, his daddy might.
So a lot of men have been hitting me up in my DMs asking to go on a date. Just because I'm funny does not mean I'm a good person. I am still very much a gold digger.
Just because you consider me attractive does not mean that I am attracted to you.
So today I woke up and had an epiphany. I'm gonna start taking myself out on solo dates until I meet a man who matches my energy.
You know, you really gotta be out of your rabid ASS mind to think that a woman like me, beautiful, 33 years old, nice body, pretty, no children, gets a lot of attention, that I would ever have to settle for a man.
When a woman chooses not to take her husband's last name, what message is she intending to send? And is that the same message her husband is likely to receive?
She asked, like, how does that come across to a man? It symbolizes a lack of trust. The same way that before we get married and I ask you to sign that prenup, and you look at me like, wow, really? The same way you get pregnant and I ask you to take a DNA test before you had your baby and we married, right? You see, look at the... Look at the gasping. I can't believe you would ask me that. That's what that implies. That implies that you don't trust me. That implies that you're not as invested in this as I am. And that's what I'm saying. If something as simple as a last name.
I've heard a lot of situations where women do not take their husband's last name. And it's generally a woman that has done so much work that her last name has earned. I.e. women who are female doctors, female lawyers, the ones who's like, I went to medical school, I went to law school, this is Dr. such and such, whatever made a name is.
You see what she said? I did this. I did that. Me. These be the same women that say, oh, men are just intimidated by my success. No, they're turned off by the attitude that accompanies that kind of success. The ego, the pride, the inability to become one.
Now, I personally am a fan of the hyphen. I think that when I get married, I am hyphening because the legacy that comes with my last name to me is going to be just as important as the family that I marry into. The bloodline that I came from is legendary. We're not just going to erase mine because of tradition and what it says you're supposed to do 100 years ago.
If we gonna hyphenate the last name, let's hyphenate the bills. Right. Let's hyphenate the responsibilities.
Let's hyphenate the soft life.
Our husbands, even the non-believers, those who aren't Christian, they are expected to lay their lives down for their wives. If their home is being burglarized, if somebody was attacking a man's wife, he is expected to lay his life down, put his life in jeopardy to save hers. But there's women in the world like her who refuse to lay their name down for their husbands. And they still expect that type of loyalty and protection. Let's just face it, ma'am. You're not a wife. Maybe you're not meant to be one. Because this mentality is not one of a wife.
We got to be all the way honest about it. I think that a lot of women's husbands are just boxes on their list to check off.
Bingo.
The tricky part of that we witness with so many women in marriage lose their entire identity to having a husband. While we can say that, oh, it's just a trophy for you to have on, and it starts as you got to take my last name, and then you move into my house, and then you're doing holidays with my family, and then I'm planning all of the vacations, and then you become an extension of my identity and my legacy, and you have my children, and you essentially live in my shadow. At what point does a woman's existence matter to the point where I'm still me? I'm not just going to be such and such wife. I'm going to always have my own name. Correct. I'm going to always have my own identity.
Well, the issue is that your name isn't your name, it's your father's. And that's if you didn't come from a broken home, and that can explain a lot of the confusion here. He leaves his family and you leave your family, and you now become one, creating a new family. And women like this is exactly why a lot of men are opting out of marriage.
Keeping it raw with kosher, where truth is stranger than fiction and delusion is at an all-time high.
If it ain't kosher, ain't 7. Hell is your home.
So if you waited to this point or got to this point, you're going to see a correlating factor. So if you've gotten to this point, you've probably been dealing with a flea male. If you're a man over 50, there's a conversation that your father never had with you. That conversation, or the lack thereof, it caused you a lot of pain, distress, brokenness, and expectations that never came into reality. And depending on the choices that you made, that missing conversation may have already cost you. Hello, this is a very important session of the Kosher Clinician, where truth is stranger than fiction and delusions at an all-time high. A marriage, money, years of your life, maybe even your peace, because your father probably taught you how to work for a woman, provide for a woman. Mama always knows best. Happy wife, happy life. He may have taught you how to provide, how to protect a family, and how to take responsibility, but your father never sat you down and gave you all the important variables that are associated with being a strong, competent man, and how to deal with women and not to be a slave and a victim to some of their emotional manipulations. But did he ever sit you down and teach you how to recognize a relationship that was slowly destroying you? And as I walk across the boardwalk here in Nags Head, North Carolina, Nags Head on the piers trying to enjoy this sunlight and this beautiful ocean breeze, I would argue that your dad probably didn't tell you anything. From Gen X to boomers, men have been conditioned to serve women and putting themselves on the back burner. And in a healthy, functional relationship, men and women both benefit. But however, when men minimize their needs for the sake of appeasing women, something catastrophic happens. Instead of getting the desires that he wants from that relationship, he eventually becomes drained psychologically and also financially from a term that I created, which many modern women call a flea male. A flea male is a blood leech. She's a vampire. She's an emotional vampire. She's psychological and manipulating. And over time, stress plus financial ruin leads to dissolving a man. The bill has come. Many of you have gotten the bill at an expensive restaurant, and the onerous burden of this woman expecting you to pay the bill, even though she may have asked you out, becomes problematic. Many modern women are flea males because they lack self-awareness, they lack boundaries, they lack reflection, they lack taking accountability, and they lack saying, I'm sorry. And dealing with those kind of conditions over a span of time is not consistent or conducive to a man's mental wellness. Now stay with me, because the last lesson may be the hardest one for men over 50 to accept. Lesson number 1, attraction can override your judgment. The scripture is very clear. It says, cast not thy strength to a woman. The first thing your father should have taught you is simple. Never allow attraction to override your observation. Some of you men have seen it. You've seen it not one time, but several times in the dynamics of relationships. Young men see beauty and immediately start filling in the blanks. Men lose their minds over a very attractive woman. But here's the caveat. What they forget to ask themselves is, how can that beauty become an asset in my life instead of a liability? And many men fail to ask themselves that question until it's too late. She's affectionate, therefore she's probably loyal. She desires me, therefore she must respect me. No, that's not the case. You didn't know any of that yet. Attraction tells you what you are attracted to, that's it. But character requires observation. And many times, many men are bad judges of character. They are so mesmerized by the physicality of a woman, they allow that to supersede their rationality when it comes down to a healthy, functional relationship. How does she respond when she's angry? How does she handle being told no? Can she apologize? Can she disagree without disrespect? Does she accept responsibility? How does she describe every relationship that ended before you? Because if everybody before you was crazy, brother, you might want to keep listening. If you got this far, you might want to keep listening, because if you don't keep listening, you might be in distress or getting in contact with a female. Lesson number 2, stop trying to earn love from a woman. One of the biggest detriments of men is that they're trying to earn love from a woman. And in the clinical, we call that contraindication. That simply means that things that I thought would be beneficial for a relationship, many times it's actually the opposite. You cannot buy your way into love as a man. You have to stand on masculinity and you have to stand on business. And it's not just about money. Men buy love with labor, availability, and sacrifice. But the problem is, if you don't make that woman earn that relationship, she will never respect you. And sadly, so many modern women are females that they think they deserve your time, money, status, and attention just because. How many of you men have been complicit in problem solving, overfunctioning? We tell ourselves, if I do enough, eventually she will appreciate me. But many times it never happens. But here's where some men get trapped. You keep giving because you're getting less. And that's not consistent with healthy behavior modification. Think about it. You're starving emotionally, so instead of asking what you're starving, you start feeding everybody else. But that's not always generosity. Sometimes that's fear, and that's fear of rejection. And some of you may have compromised your power because you've been rejected so many times. So many men compromise their power because they have an insecure attachment. But here's the problem. If you stop performing, that relationship will disappear. And she knows it. And that's something many men should have learned long before 50. And so me being on this pier here in Nags Head is a reflection point that can give to some of the younger men, and hoping that they don't have to go through some of the things that other men have went through and find out when it's too late. One of the biggest struggles that a lot of men are struggling with now is something called a great divorce. And your father didn't tell you that if you did all these things, that it will lead to a great divorce or will not lead to a great divorce. Love that requires you to abandon yourself isn't love worth keeping. Lesson number 3, peace is information. As I'm walking out here on the piers in Nags Head, North Carolina, the greatest state in the union, listening to the seagulls, the dolphins, feeling the breeze from the ocean, seeing the dolphins in the water, seeing the people in the sun and all the happiness on the beach. Your father should have taught you to pay attention to what happens to your nervous system around people. Do you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells? If you're constantly walking on eggshells, then you're dealing with a female. Are you rehearsing conversations before you have them? Are you constantly defending yourself or things you never said? Those are signs of narcissistic women. Are you apologizing just to end arguments? Are you afraid to tell the truth because you know what's coming next? Pay attention. Your body sometimes recognizes dysfunction before your mind is willing to admit it. And some of you men who are listening have gone through that many times, but you choose to stay into it because you have been conditioned to having a dysregulated nervous system that's predicated in trauma instead of having a healthy nervous system that's predicated in peace. And here's where men get confused. They think, well, we don't fight every day. That's not the standard. So because we don't fight every day, it does not mean that you're not in a dysfunctional relationship. Another question you might want to ask yourself is that, can I be myself with this woman? Can I disagree? Can I establish boundaries? Can I say no? Can I express disappointment? Can I tell this woman something that she don't want to hear without her being emotionally punished for it, or me being emotionally punished for it? Because guys, once you get to this certain age in your life, at the age of 50, and I'll be turning 55 on tomorrow, peace becomes everything. Because peace isn't merely the absence of arguments. Peace is the presence of emotional safety. Lesson number 4, don't ignore patterns. If you've gotten this far, don't ignore patterns. This might have saved somebody 5 years ago, but sadly some haven't been saved. Stop falling in love with someone's potential while ignoring their patterns. You've seen the red flags. You've seen the disrespect. You've seen how she acts when you challenge her or ask her a question. You've seen how she gets emotionally regulated. You've seen how she's talked to the Rachels. Those are the red flags that you need to look for so that you don't have to deal with the female. Listen carefully. An apology without behavior change is information. I'm sorry. Okay, what changed? It didn't mean, okay, what changed? I promise you I'll never do it again. But the question is, what really changed? Men waste years, and we all have been guilty of it, responding to words without ignoring while ignoring patterns. You've been in relationships where the woman says she's sorry, but she's still doing the same behavior. True contrition leads to changed behavior. But apologizing without changed behavior, oftentimes, guys, is only just an excuse. Your father should have told you, don't judge character about what someone promised you during reconciliation, but watch what they repeatedly do after the crisis is over. That's a kicker. Because a lot of times they're not saying they're sorry because they're really sorry. They're saying they're sorry because they don't want to deal with accountability or the consequences associated. And those women normally are females. They are dangerous, they're parasitic, and they're very also antagonistic at the same time. Why does she keep doing this? And stop asking, why do I keep accepting it? That's where the conversation becomes uncomfortable, because a lot of men cannot live with themselves or live with the power and the consequences of walking away, knowing that you might lose her, but at the end you gain your peace of mind. Lesson number 5, your childhood may be choosing your partner. Some of you have grown up in very dysfunctional families where you didn't have fathers to teach you the rights of manhood, where you didn't have fathers to teach you how to set boundaries, where you didn't have fathers to teach you that you have a value and a king inside of you. And because of that, it's caused you to be in a quagmire or a position that's not consistent with having healthy outcomes. This is where the therapist in me comes out. Sometimes the person you're attracted to isn't a random, they're familiar. And many times, men, you tend to marry the chaos that you've seen in your life or the chaos that you are. They're familiar. And familiarity doesn't necessarily mean healthy. If you grew up chasing validation due to an insecure attachment style, you may choose validation in relationships instead of choosing respect. If love was inconsistent, inconsistency may strangely feel exciting. If you had to perform to receive approval, you may become an adult who overperforms in relationships. In conflict as a child, you may become the 55-year-old man who can't say, no, that doesn't work for me. Because even though chronologically you can be 55, but developmentally, you're still in your younger years. And that's why understanding your childhood matters. Not because we're trying to blame your mother, not because we're trying to blame your father. We're trying to understand the blueprint that led you to this dysfunctional behavior and how to eradicate it and change it for more healthier, functioning relationships. And this is a very important lesson that a lot of men learn too late, and that lesson is boundaries. Do you want to learn something about somebody? Set a reasonable boundary and see how they respond. That's when you start learning whether or not this person is really for you, or they're only in the relationship for what they can get or what they can get. Healthy people might not always like your boundaries, but they can negotiate them. Unhealthy dynamics often respond differently to guilt, shame, silent treatment, threats, mockery, manipulation. Suddenly you're selfish because you stop saying yes. That's a sign of narcissistic traits. Sometimes people aren't upset because you changed. They are upset because their access to you have changed. That's a major difference. And by 50, you should understand a boundary isn't controlling another person. A boundary determines what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate. Lesson number 7. Don't confuse being needed with being valued. That's something a lot of men get confused. Men love feeling needed. It's part of our psyche as a man. It's part of how we operate, how we function to convey our love for our families. But however, a provider, protector, problem solver, fix-it, all those things can be beautiful qualities. But here's the danger to it. That a lot of men don't ask themselves the questions. Does she value me or only mirror or value what I can provide? Because those aren't necessarily, guys, the same thing. What happens when you become exhausted or when you lose the ability to provide? What happens when you need emotional support? What happens when you don't have to answer? What happens when you can't rescue everybody? Are you going to still be valuable in love? A healthy relationship, guys, allows you to be more than a utility. That utility is something a lot of men struggle with, guys. And that utility, or the human doing of a man, has led men to an early grave. You're not just a paycheck, as I'm sitting here reflecting on this pier, and you're not just for transportation. You're not just for protection, and you're not just the man who fixed everything. You are a human being. But many times in society, men are seen as human doings instead of human beings. Lesson number 8, a lesson that you should have learned by the time you turn 50. This is when dating after 50 becomes dangerous to those men that are single. You start hearing the clock. I'm getting older. Maybe this is my last opportunity. I don't want to die alone. And the fear starts negotiating your standards that can be a danger or a detriment if you don't listen accordingly. Listen to me, guys. Loneliness can make dysfunctional look like companionship, but don't do it. I'd rather see somebody spend 6 months alone rebuilding their life than 6 years trapped in something they were terrified of eating dinner by themselves. Being alone does not mean that you are lonely. Your age doesn't mean you should never lower your standards. Your experience should make your standards clear. You should know yourself better now. You should understand how your values impact you, but also how your values can hurt you. You should recognize chaos faster now so that you can enjoy the beauty and the tranquility of peace, but also understanding the importance of time. 50 isn't a deadline, guys. It's just information. And here's the hardest lesson that a lot of men don't get as they navigate through the world. Here's a lesson that I promised you guys from the beginning. Your father maybe have never told you this because maybe nobody's taught him either. But some of our fathers weren't emotionally available. Some were working constantly. Some weren't there. Some were physically present but emotionally absent. Some loved us deeply but didn't possess the language to teach us that in relationships. We've all been through it as men where we had solid fathers that were there, but they did not always show their love because they probably didn't have the skill sets to do it either. So you enter adulthood knowing how to survive, but not necessarily knowing how to connect. And eventually, every man has to make a decision. Am I going to spend the rest of my life blaming what I wasn't taught, or am I going to learn it now? Because at 20, you can blame ignorance. At 30, you're still figuring it out. At 40, the patterns are becoming obvious. But at 50, come on, guys, you can't be simping at this late stage in your life. And one of the worst things to be is a gravy train simp or an old simp, expecting things to change and they only get worse. So therefore, it's time. It's time for you to start setting and looking at the areas and the calls that you've done, but also learning that in order to get peace, you have to prioritize yourself. In closing, guys, you can't change what your father didn't teach you at 50. But you can change a relationship that's already ended. You can't get money back that you've already spent. You can't recover every year. You can't undo every mistake. But you can make sure that the next chapter doesn't look like the last one. So learn boundaries, learn discernment, learn emotional regulation, learn yourself. Stop chasing validation. Stop confusing attraction with character. Stop confusing being needed with love. And more importantly, stop abandoning yourself to keep somebody else happy and safe. Because the greatest relationship your father maybe never taught you is this. A relationship should complement your life, not consume your identity. And if you're a man over 50, I want you to answer one of the questions in the comments. What's something about relationship you had to learn the hard way? Because somebody reading this comment might be 25, and I don't want you guys that are 25 to have to deal with this. You might tell someone, something, or tell this person something that their father never did. And so if you're interested in a conversation or consultation about masculinity relationships and understand what to do next, go ahead and subscribe to The Kosher Clinician. And remember, wisdom isn't knowing what you should have done 20 years ago. Wisdom is making sure you don't spend the next 20 years doing the same thing. And remember this, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. This is another commentary and another episode of Keeping It Raw with Kosher, where truth is stranger than fiction and delusion is at an all-time high. Don't be that man at 50 years old still trying to figure things out. You take care of yourself, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel.